This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Shaun Cole, and the real star of today's show is a viewer-submitted rig, and it comes to us from Alan de Windt in Zurich, Switzerland. I've got him here on the Skype interview. He's going to take us through the rig a little bit, show us off some of the features, let you know the motivation behind this incredible do-it-yourself rig, and let's go ahead and just get right to talking to Alan about it. Alan, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. When I saw pictures of your rig that you had sent to me, I had to, A, feature it on the show, and B, talk to you about it. Let's start off with some basics. When did you get into, and how did you get into sim racing?
I guess it's quite a while ago that I had an interest for it, but not until maybe around 8 or 9 years ago did I first get my first wheel, which was a Logitech Momo. And that was fun, but the games at that time were not as good as today. But it got me started, yeah.
And back then, was it just sitting there bolted to a desk like everybody else, or were you already building elaborate rigs?
It's bolted to a desk, and it stayed that way for years. And you know, I don't have a whole lot of time to play, to drive. So it was usually on weekends that I'd set it up, and then I'd take it all down so I could make room for, to do other things with the desk and all, yeah.
So this new, do you have a name? Have you named your rig?
Yes, actually I have. I call it the Simbox, simulation box, Simbox for short.
It's almost sim room. It's a little bigger than just a box.
It's true.
So what got you started and is this your first do-it-yourself rig, or have you done others?
It's my very first one, and you know what got me into it is I got tired of taking the steering wheel out after playing a little bit with it. And I also didn't like the way it looked with all the wires and everything all over the place. It's quite messy. And obviously the space I was using for other things as well. So that, I just kind of hated the setup, the take down and whatever. And then I also started to look at what was available on the market, all these rigs that you can buy, and didn't like them because for me, they also sort of quite messy. Still, you have a lot of gear. If you've got a lot of room where you can dedicate for that, that's great. And it's okay. But in my case, I don't. I have, quite a full house and not much spare space. So I had to come up with something that would solve all those issues, yeah?
Yeah, I understand. Now, when you got started, did you think you were going to build something this elaborate? I mean, did you plan it from start to finish, or did you just kind of keep moving along and massaging the idea?
A lot of planning, because when I first decided to do it, I didn't actually have the money. So I had almost a year actually to design it. And that's how long I took. A lot of work in Google SketchUp, and, went through a ton of iterations. And I, didn't mind doing that because I thought as long as I don't start cutting any wood, I can change this up any way I wish. There's nothing lost, right? Mm-hmm. So I did spend a lot of time thinking and designing it, came up with tons of different ideas, finally to settle on the one I've got.
It's really fantastic. So when I saw the pictures, I thought, oh, this guy must be a carpenter. He must be a cabinet maker. It looks like it was built into the house with perfection. And so then I was fascinated to find. So do you have a background in woodworking?
No, not really. I mean, I actually spent my high school years and even middle school in the U.S. And, the great thing about a lot of schools there is you can actually have, a wood shop class. So I got started that way. But my parents always had a wood shop at home. So, we had a table saw and various other things. So I kind of got used to and got used to building my own things, little desks and whatever, but never did it professionally. It's always been a hobby, yeah.
Excellent. So now, take me through some of your favorite parts of the rig. Like when you look at it, when you sit and drive, what parts of it really, put your signature on it?
Wow, I think I was looking for something quite immersive as well, right? And that's why I thought, an enclosed box is gonna have its challenges, but hopefully it'll give that good immersion factor. And so I do like the fact that I can close it. I've got a good air circulation in it. And it really kind of just puts me in my own little world there where I can do a little bit of sim racing or whatever I want to do, actually, because I even do a home office work in here as well. And that's also why I made it so flexible in design that I can adjust things, right? But yeah, that aspect I like a lot. The fact that it's dashboard. It kind of looks like a dashboard of a car. It also kind of makes it fun, and the fact that I've got a car radio in it, that was really important, by the way. The car radio, really important. Hey, you gotta have some tunes when you're driving around. It's just not the same as you can't.
Well, and especially when you're using it as a dual purpose and using it for that workspace, it's got to be nice to be able to just put on some nice, gentle music while you're working away.
True as well, yes.
So, take us through some of your components that you have installed into this.
Okay, well, I've got a Fanatec wheelbase with the BMW rim wheel. I've got Fanatec pedals as well. I'm pretty much a Fanatec setup, really. And I've got the H-pattern shifter as well from Fanatec. Really happy with this these components. I wanted something that was a bit higher quality than what I had, which was the Logitech Momo, and just wanted a quality experience. So I'm really happy with that. Very, very happy with it. The PC, I put myself together as well. I read up a little bit on PC components and chose my parts myself. Wanted to really have something, a really smooth experience as well, which is the reason why I wanted to put some money away to do it right,
Yeah. When I think, so I've been doing this show a long time. When I review a standard rig that somebody might put in their living room or in their office, I've often called them the girlfriend killer because, usually a woman comes in with some fashion sense and says, that is not going to live right there. So what has the reaction been to this rig from, family and friends?
Well, family, I've got kids and they think it's fun. They don't use it a whole lot, actually, less than I thought they would. Don't have many drivers in the family. That's the thing, I think. But for watching videos and all that, they enjoy it. But otherwise, pretty good. Now, I didn't want to make it dual purpose as well. So it's actually a bed on top, right? So I don't, it's just trying to make as good use of the space, which is a good seller as well, again, because if I was to dedicate a space for it, I probably would have got in big trouble for it. But so that worked out pretty well. I think the other thing that I really wanted to be able to do is be able to take it apart easily and have it also in components so that if I want to replace something, if I want to upgrade something, it's easy, right? Uh-huh. And so that's also why I gave a lot of thought to the whole component aspect and the fact that it's just 6 panels bolted together, basically, right, or screwed together.
Right.
And the innards as well. These are just consoles that I can easily unscrew, take off, punch holes through, do whatever I want. Haven't had to, actually, because I really thought it out pretty well so far. But it allows it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How long did it take you to build?
Well, I do have a full-time job, so I don't have that much time to devote to it. I worked Saturdays only for a good 10 months, and I was really religiously working every Saturday, putting in a good 8 or 9 hours of woodworking. About 10 months. That does not include the dashboard, and I'm not done with it yet because I do still intend to build a seat for it. I'm using a chair that I kind of cut the legs off of a little bit. Uh-huh. And I want to put a proper chair in here, build a chair for it, which also I want to make as adjustable as possible. So kind of like sliding backwards and forwards like a car, right?
Right.
And I have all the designs in my head yet, just haven't had the time to build it yet.
So by being able to get in your box and close the door, you have no distractions. Like, you don't see cars driving by. My dog can't run into the room. I'm assuming your kids mostly stay out of it when you're driving. Does being closed off, does it make you a better driver, like higher concentration?
Yes, I think so, definitely. I'm not a very competitive racer, I should say, or actually I don't even race online or haven't yet. I mostly, and I'm sure that was one of the questions you'd get to eventually, but I mostly use Assetto Corsa. Love it. Love the physics. I love the feel of it. And quite frankly, most of the time I'm just doing laps just for the fun of it. I crank up the stereo. It's relaxing to me. And after a busy day at work and whatever, usually in the evenings when everybody's gone to bed, I just jump in here, maybe spend a half an hour, do some laps, crank up the radio a little bit, and it's just, it brings me that relaxation and takes me away from the daily problems, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's mostly what I intend to get into racing at some point, competitive racing. But I'm just having too much fun already,
Now, so if I were to build this box at home here in America, wood is outrageously expensive here. Any idea what you've spent putting this whole thing together?
But probably my costs are a bad comparison, because I think if you go to your Home Depot over there, you're going to get a lot better prices than I'm getting here in Switzerland. Switzerland is very expensive.
Okay.
But just to give you, I guess, an idea, the wood that I bought, just the wood, and it's pine, it's not exotic wood, right? I probably spent close to 800 francs, which I guess is not far from $800. I mean, conversion rate's not that different. So, yeah, a considerable amount of money already just in the wood.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and that's. I mean, it's a really elaborate design, and I mean, I think for a lot of people, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, it's a very unique idea to be able to close yourself off. Tell me a little about the ventilation, because one of my concerns would be, am I going to overheat? How much air? How are you getting the air in at a rate that can cool you well enough?
Yeah, very good question, and definitely there was one of the things I gave quite a bit of thought, because precisely to your point, I didn't want to have that kind of an issue. So what I've done is at the bottom, near the pedals, at the floor level, I've got an opening there, and in the back behind me, this box that you can see behind me, I've got an exhaust fan that basically sucks out the warmer air that has risen in the box, right? And that has worked extremely well. I don't even have it on right now, and the box is closed, and it's acceptable. But yeah, when I race, obviously with the concentration and everything, it does warm up. I've got to switch on my dashboard to turn it on when I get a little warm, and it cools off quite quickly. So that has worked really well. Sound was another thing, by the way, which I was quite worried about, because it's a box after all, and I didn't want the audio to it could be a bad echo box, right?
Right.
Being so small as well. So I had to think about that, and I've got this carpet glued on the sides and inside, right? And that has worked quite well. So
that was going to be my question. So the gray, that's actually material, not paint.
That's correct. So it's a 5 millimeter thick carpet. They're 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter squares. That is easy. They're easy to cut, because it's kind of like a rubber backing on it, right? And then I just, with contact cement, I glued them on. I've got the lighter gray on top, and I've got I guess pretty much black on the bottom, sort of like tar or street, know. That was the idea.
So, and I would imagine it also kind of helps contain it. Sound deadening, it's stopping the vibration, it's stopping the echo, and it's probably keeping it in so you're not disturbing everybody any more than you have to. Or less than it would be if it was just open speakers.
Correct. Yeah, works both ways.
Right. Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm very impressed. I love the concept behind it. I love that you thought outside of the box to build yourself in the box. Because most people think of a rig as something you just get onto, I think is a better way, instead of into. And you've certainly achieved the getting into the Simrig just like you would getting into a car even.
But again, I think it's also, I made extra effort to hide as much of the wiring as possible, so that it's clean, it's kind of nicer to look at. And so although in the room it kind of looks odd, because you've got a box there when it's closed, right? But it's clean, right? You don't have the messiness that usually you would have with rigs. Now, some people like that. Some people like to show off their gear, and that's cool too. But I wanted a little bit cleaner result, if you will. So I'm quite happy with that. And the other thing that I had to give a lot of thought to was the fact that I wanted to use it for several things: to be able to work in it, like an office type work, and to be able to have fun in it. And that's where I made it so adjustable. So the monitor I can raise, lower, I can bring forwards in front of the steering wheel on the dashboard or behind it when I'm driving. And likewise, I've got a tray for the keyboard that I put the keyboard on, and everything slides between these two modules. Nothing's fixed, but the dashboard weighs enough that it doesn't move when I drive. So, I didn't have to lock it down anyway. I just slide it forwards and backwards, adjust it to where I want it, and I'm good to go. So that, I had to put a lot of thought into that, because I needed to really use it for multiple things.
Sure. Well, and like you said, you have a bed on top, right?
That's correct.
So for a lot of people that are in small apartments, or they live at their, in a small bedroom and their rig has to be in their bedroom, not in the house.
Right.
This is one way to achieve it. I mean, you literally are getting dual purpose out of it essentially, and at the same time, you've created that comfort zone for yourself.
Yes, works pretty well. Very well for me anyway.
Yeah, it would be especially good if you ever get into endurance racing and you're doing one of these 24-hour races, and you just go from driving, jump upstairs, take a quick nap, and then 2 hours later you're back in the car again.
I hadn't thought of that, but you got a good point there. Don't have to go far. All you need is a restroom pretty close by, and you're set.
Exactly. You could probably fit a mini fridge in there too, so you could have all your cold snacks and.
Well, I've got sliding doors under here, so yeah, I do actually have snacks in there already, so I'm almost set there.
Oh, very, very cool. So, you mentioned you want to get a seat. Any other future? What's your lighting? Your lighting is really good in there. So, what have you done for lights?
Thanks. So I've gotten these LED RGB strips, just simple ones, with an infrared remote. You can, everybody can find these quite easily. Yeah, there you go. It's almost identical. So that's what I've got, and you know what? I didn't want any direct lighting, especially not any lighting that reflected off the screen. So what I decided to do was to just mount it on the top, just above and it reflects off the ceiling, right?
Uh-huh.
So that it's kind of indirect lighting and it doesn't, it's not too intrusive, I guess.
Right.
And that's worked pretty well, actually.
How tall is it inside?
The box is 1.40 meters. So that'd be a good 4.5 feet, almost 5 feet.
Yeah, 4.5, 5 feet. Okay. So I could almost walk in it.
Sorry?
I could almost walk in it.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little guy.
Okay. Well, yeah, you do have to be careful, though. I mean, I've hit my head more than once, so that's a little bit of a, you have to get used to. But and that was the other thing, right? I didn't want to have it too tall or too high, because then it would have been a problem to sleep on top of it.
Right.
And too low, and then it's difficult to get in. So I had to come up with something more or less. I spent a lot of time in front of the mirror, sitting on a chair actually, and kind of trying to measure myself.
Yeah, like what would be adequate.
Exactly. I need some room up here. What is going to work? What is going to be too much or too little? So I settled on the 140, and that's, I think, a good compromise.
Yeah. Well, I'm really impressed. I'm this far from trying to build one for myself, because it would help me out with some things as well. Not sure it would work great for filming though, but I could always mount my cameras into the box as well.
You could. And I encourage other folks to do this. I think it's, my profession at work, I build a lot of things. I also have to invent things, but they're all virtual, because I'm a business analyst. And I've always had that satisfaction of being able to build things physically as well, right? It kind of brings balance in my life. So, people who haven't done it or thought of getting into it, I can only encourage them to. It's a blast. You learn along the way. That's one of the reasons I did this as well. I wanted to stretch my skills, because some of the things I didn't do. And so I thought it'd be a great project. And it's turned out to be a fantastic project, just from the design perspective, as well as figuring out how to do everything, all the planning, and then of course the building. And it's a hobby, so I from the start, I told myself I'm not going to rush. I'll take my time. I just wanted to build quality and something that I really could be happy and be able to enjoy once it's built right. And the whole journey of building it for me was, just as much fun as it is now using it. It's just been a blast. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you said that, because I think that's a part of the whole DIY mentality that is often missed, is that sometimes it's more satisfying to build something yourself, because in the end you get that extra pride of having done it. And in your case, it kind of worked extra, where your job is to virtually create things. You don't get to see the tangible results later, versus this was something that you get to plan in that same way, but then see it all the way to the point of execution, and see how it varies even, which is, I'm sure, part of the process as well.
Yes. And the other thing is, I don't have a wood shop. I don't have a garage. As I said, we don't have a car. So I basically built this in a similarly sized closet. It's a little bit bigger, but it's a closet. And I don't have many tools. I have some Japanese saws, a router, a drill, and that's pretty much it. So I think that's, if people are thinking, oh, I couldn't possibly build that, I don't have the right garage, I don't have the right machines, I don't have a table saw, whatever, you don't need that. You don't. If you just have a few tools, you learn to use, sufficiently well, you'd be amazed at what you can do. Don't let it hold you back. In fact, when I first moved in this apartment, because it's in a dual, it's a 2-floor, sort of a house connected to another house. It's a complex like that, right?
Yeah.
When I first moved into it, I was building stuff in the actual bathroom here because I didn't figure out that I could use that outside closet to, and it would be a little bit better.
Right.
So it didn't stop me,
Right.
It didn't stop me. And yeah, people, you don't need things to be perfect.
No, and you can't let something like not having a workshop be the reason you didn't do it, because you can always do it. So you do it on a balcony, do it on your front porch, whatever
Exactly.
it takes. So, well, Alan, I really appreciate you contacting me, sending me in some pictures, and even more so getting me all the extra B-roll. But more than all of that, taking the time to sit down and really take me through the rig. Again, it's a one of a kind. I mean, I've seen other box types, but I've never seen one quite like this. This is a very unique rig, and I'm immensely impressed. And I've seen my share of rigs, that's for sure.
Well, thank you very much for featuring my rig and having me on your show. It's great. I wanted to do something like this, potentially even put my own YouTube video up, but I never found the time, and I don't really have the experience to put something like that together. So I'm really happy that you were agreed to put it on your show, and thanks a lot for that.
Very cool. Then you can show that to all the people who haven't had a chance to drive it just yet. Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much, Alan. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure you've motivated some people out there.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Shaun.
All right. So there you have it. Alan Windt with the Simbox. Total immersion? Check. DIY accomplishment? Check. That just getting to do it, not letting obstacles stand in your way, doing what it takes, and getting exactly what you want out of sim racing. Hats off to Alan for a job well done. This is the Simpit. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track.